Clutter is simply a postponed decision. Ooh, does that get to you?
Kind of hurts.
Yeah. We're going to address clutter and maybe how to make those decisions a little bit easier so you aren't overwhelmed by the clutter.
Mama says namaste. Mama says namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh, yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.
So I can remember back when I was in real estate, one of the perks of the job is you get to see how people really handle their clutter.
Oh my.
And you get to advise them on how they can handle their clutter. And it's interesting. I mean, there are, I don't know how many types of people, but there's several different strategies. And one of them, is find the garage full of stuff, or kind of piled up on the walls, or the closet full of stuff and kind of piled up where you don't dare open the door, or it's just strewn underneath everything. And, it's just, it is totally an avoidance. Like, I look at my own life and how I've handled my clutter, my little things that I have to have and can't live without, but don't really use. And it's just I always stash it and hide it in places where nobody would ever look. Like, I've got bows and arrows up in this laundry or a little area in our bathroom that you couldn't reach if you even wanted to.
I don't want to.
You don't want to. You don't want to see what kind of goodies I've got packed up there. But it does become like we didn't really understand the impact of clutter on our lives until we started playing around with it. So it can sneak up on you and in the most innocent and sweetest way possible. Like, grandmother or grandfather dies and they give you a little box of stuff.
Yes.
Or everybody knows you as Ashley Rose Logs or Miller. So we'll give you a rose because that's an easy thing a dude could do. Low-hanging fruit. So I meet this beautiful young woman and go to her apartment that is covered in roses.
Right. So we originally started talking about clutter back on episode 19. And I went back and I read the blog post that I had about dealing with clutter, and it was reflecting on those first years of our lives and how when we first got married, we brought our own clutter into the world. I mean, we had our own different things. And yeah, for me, with my middle name being Rose and me loving roses, everybody thought that was the perfect gift for me for everything. So I had Rose everything. And Nathan, being the hunter that he was, had dead animal everything.
Antlers and furs and pouches, skulls, all kinds of fun stuff. I can't believe you dated me. Whatever.
I know. It is interesting. That's looking back and where we are now. I can't
believe I dated you, really, when I start thinking about it. But
that's a whole other podcast episode there. But yeah, when it comes to clutter, I mean, we had so much when we were first coming to create together. And so we made an agreement at that point. Let's clear out all of this and kind of start with a blank slate. And
so we did.
And we're going to get to that more because
what we did is we recluttered together.
Yeah. And so, but we wanted to try to start with a blank slate. So we did. We actually ended up having a big garage sale. We sold all the dead animals and the roses, and $467 richer, we made our way to Knoxville to start and build and create our home together. And from there, we were coming from our parents' homes with over 3,000 square feet of big area to live in to this tiny little student housing in an apartment complex at UT Knoxville.
Nowhere to hide the clutter.
No, my office space was literally 3.5 feet wide. So it was actually kind of like a little open walk-in closet thingy. And that was my office where I would work from home because I was just starting doing customer service for 48 days. So I was just getting started with doing just virtual work in addition to AmeriCorps and being a student. So I had my work office there. Nathan, you went off to work at the bank.
Eventually,
yeah. And so
it was a bumpy road getting there, but I made it.
Yeah, so we started looking at how we were going to build and create, and we got into, we found some great ways of doing this and looking at ways to be frugal with our money because we were coming with, a very tiny budget and just starting out together and how could we do it. And so, that's a time when you end up, taking advantage of the hand-me-downs. I mean, we were at a college. We did dumpster diving. I remember us scoring some great furniture finds from the dumpster.
Yep.
And getting our keys to the place afterward that fell in the dumpster. Anyway, we had we would start to gather things, and at that point in time, free cycle was really big.
Yeah.
And so we were doing free cycle, and it's crazy how quickly things can accumulate. And for us, we were being very good stewards of our money, and so when we'd see a deal, we'd get it. But oftentimes, I mean, I used to have a magnet that said, just because it's on sale doesn't mean you need it. And there comes a point like that. And I remember, being at such a point of overwhelm when we had small children because we had kids, which is always that great invitation for any friends that already have kids to slough off all of their kid things.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got all of these hand-me-down clothes. I've got all of these hand-me-down toys, and you end up with so much.
Well, and we had just accumulated a lot of stuff because we had just gotten married and had a new set of dishes together for the first time. We had all that stuff.
Right. So we had all of our, all of the stuff that we had accumulated over at this point before kids was, the first 2 years of marriage. We had started to accumulate, and from getting things free and just filling things and making do with what was, we created a hodgepodge of clutter at this point that we had created together. And then we bring in the kids, and then we get all of the free hand-me-downs. And then, I got to a point of realizing, hey, my kids are, I've been a mother now for 5 years, and I have never bought a stinking outfit for my child because everything has been a hand-me-down. And we've worn clothes just because they're there and not really that they're true to who we are. And we've just accepted some of these things. And then now I've got extra clutter that was kind of the clutter of being handed off somebody else's clutter.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to see things in a different way. And then, okay, well, do I really want this?
Yeah.
And so you can really easily end up, even when you are wanting to be super frugal, when you're not buying things, you can still end up with your house being full of clutter.
Just the stuff of life.
Right. And just because it's free, you take it. It's a craft you may get to later. It's something you may, kids may grow into. There are all these maybe things, maybe scenarios where it's nice to have it handy.
Yeah.
And we're in a world of convenience where it's nice to have it convenient, except for when it's not and it's overwhelming you and it's taking over your
having
house.
2 Dyson vacuums is a good example. Like, we bought one because we needed one and we loved it and we really appreciated it. And then we're strolling down the road and we see one that's just thrown away on the side of the road, given away. So we scooped that up. And it works, and so now we've got 2, and that's part of the deal with the Dyson is once it runs out of juice, you have to wait, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours for that battery to charge back up because it's not plugged.
Uh-huh.
And so now having 2 is really convenient when you want to vacuum the whole house because then you can really give it a good clean and not worry about cutting any corners and trying to run that battery down. But we carry around 2 Dyson vacuum cleaners.
And so then we have to think about the reality of that. So when I posed the question 2 weeks ago in the Facebook communities and in the Eagles community, when I posted the question, what are you tolerating? That was one of the comments that we got back was clutter. And to your point, one of the comments that we had on there from Christine was not just clutter, it was the clutter of her parents. Because the other thing is, so first we're taking on this clutter of, what all we accumulate with gifts for getting married and being together and combining two households. And then we're dealing with the clutter of the kids and the hand-me-downs and the extra things that go in from things that they're bringing in and gifts they're bringing in and all the things they're creating. And then
heirlooms.
We get to the point of the heirlooms, and it's our parents are giving us all of our stuff from our childhood we now are carrying. And then they get older, and then we're taking on all of their stuff as they pass on and as our relatives pass on. And then we've got our great-grandmother's box of trinkets that are now our heirlooms, and then each one. And so there are so many seasons in our lives when we have these opportunities for more clutter to come in. And so first and foremost, I think the first thing that we want to stress is that this will continue to come in and come out of your life, and giving yourself a little bit of grace for it, and not beating yourself up or shaming yourself out of it.
It's kind of like an appetite. You're always going to have an appetite.
Right.
You're always going to want something, and you're always going to be letting go of something. And so you have to decide how that balance works in your life.
Right. Don't shame yourself. Don't get lost in the shame of it at the moment, because I want you to know we are right here with you. We are here in episode 19. We talked about decluttering, and I can pull probably 15 or 20 different blog posts and podcast episodes where we have talked about minimalism and decluttering. And I am here to say that we, Ashley and Nathan Logston, have way too much clutter in our houses right now. And I'm stressing houses, because we have clutter that we have moved. When we moved our Nashville house that is a rental, we moved all of those mementos into our Venice house in Florida, and we shoved stuff in a warehouse or in our shed. I call it the warehouse. It's not. It's a tiny shed. Whatever.
But you're little, so to you, it's a warehouse.
I digress. But, we shove everything in the shed for us to get through later. It's the postponed decisions.
It's the junk drawer.
We did. We have a shed junk drawer right now that we're going to have to go back to in December and navigate.
And that thing has had, 7 or 8 junk babies since we've been there.
I think so.
At least. Where it gets full, we clear it out. It gets full again, we clear it out. It gets full again, and we clear it out. And so we wrestle with this ourselves.
Yeah.
And understand that the struggle is real. And and it's a daily practice, just like anything. Because you're always going to be dealing with, as long as you got kids, you think you're going to get rid of your kids and everything's going to get easy. Grandkids. Yeah. Grandkids are right around the corner. We were talking about that.
And the parents that then you're taking on their things. Yep. You're starting to be the caretaker for them. So yeah, you get it on both ends. So it's not like we always joke about that, and then we'll be happy.
Then we'll be happy.
No. And then we'll have everything cleaned out and perfect in our house. It is just constant.
Yeah.
We have to make these decisions. And so how can we simplify it so that it's not so overwhelming? Number one, don't beat yourself up for it. Things are seasonal. Things come in our lives. We need things at certain times in our lives, and then we don't. There have been I remember a time when we were like, we have got to get a wok. And we used the fire out of that wok. And we cooked with the wok almost daily.
Yep.
I don't remember the last time we've ever needed a wok.
Yeah.
We got rid of it, and we haven't missed it because it was a season and we used it, and it's okay. We have moved on and have not used that. So don't beat yourself up for the accumulation or what you see as unnecessary now, because it may be that there was a point that it was necessary. So that's step one. And then step two. Probably
one of the biggest things that can knock you back into your lazy boy and watch television again instead of tackling that that giant pile of mess is trying to do the biggest, hardest stuff first. I've found that if you can find something easy that's a low-hanging fruit that can just make you a win and give you that feeling of refreshment, because it's not going to be easy. To me, like cleaning up is like trying to convince the family to go on a 1.5 mile run. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to do it. I know it's good. I could, but I don't know. There's so many other things I could do. But once you're done with it, I want to do that again and again and again, because I feel better, I feel clearer, and I feel cleaner. And that's what, to me, kind of the chipping away at is you look for something that's easy that you can do, like a junk drawer, and get that junk drawer that's just driving you mad out of your hair. Or maybe it's your kitchen counters. Clean those off and make them look good, and just do the work and get that knocked out, and then see how that feels. And that can kind of get the juices flowing and get you the motivation to start tackling that bigger stuff, like the attic or the basement or the junk closet or the your own clothes closet.
when we originally talked about this, it was pre-Marie Kondo. So it was before we read the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Cleaning Up, or of Tidying Up. And I poo-pooed that book for a long time because I thought it was insane. I thought it was way too extreme.
Then you read it.
And then I read it, and I really did get, checked myself with quite a few things. There are different ways of approaching it. And like Nathan said, going toward one small area can be sometimes the best and most manageable way for you to do it. Another way is going to one specific category. And that's what Marie Kondo is going to be vouching for. And that's, maybe you go to the category of books. And instead of going toward the bookshelf in one room, you actually gather every single book in your house.
And we've done this, and it is shocking. The best one to do to start, I would always recommend, do tech. Do chords.
Oh, my gosh.
Get all the chords that you have together, and then try to match them up with the technology and bring all your technology into one room, and it is shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, so my way of simplifying is, first off, you want to target one thing, whether that's going to be one specific spot in your home or one specific type of thing that you are going to organize. So start with that as your first step in it. And then I find so much help in sorting and trying to sort the sanity. And the first step in the sorting can be really simple, and you simply put it into 3 different categories. And that is the give, trash, and love pile. And that's it. All you are doing at this point, there's no decision making that's made, because again, clutter is a postponed decision, oftentimes because it's too overwhelming to make the decision in the moment.
It's too sensitive.
Right. And sometimes I find that the more I kind of touch that thing and then let it go and then touch it and let it go, the easier it is for me to make a decision on it. Just like when we traveled, the first step was me throwing all of the clothes that we weren't going to use right now up in the attic, and we'll come back to it. And every time we did, we were less emotionally attached to the clothes and the stuffed animals, and we were able to clear out more. So same thing when I'm sorting. Every time I'm sorting and I'm putting in a pile, I'm doing a touch at it, and then I'm moving away from it and doing a touch and moving away. And it makes it a little bit easier for me to see how important it is. And so my first step is really just breaking it down to the give, the trash, and the love. So if it is something that has space on your counter but doesn't really have space in your heart, give it away. This is your pile of stuff that fits, that works, but it's not something that you necessarily need to hold on to. Again, we can break these down more afterward, but the first thing is just simply, this is something that's still usable for someone else, but it has no place in my home. And you put that in one pile. The second pile is your trash pile. This is stuff that is, oh man, I do that like with small children. Sometimes you can have the ridiculous amounts and piles of their artwork. And there are some pieces that are so worth holding on to, and there are other pieces where, honestly, there are some pieces that are worth holding on to as far as the looks, but they're so stinking clunky. They're big, they have pieces that are falling off, the glitter is getting everywhere, the macaroni pasta is breaking off, all those things. I found a great solution was taking pictures of things that were special, and I would take pictures of things, and then they go into our chapbooks albums and our photo albums or a scrapbook or something like that, where the kids could go back and look through their art without us necessarily holding on to every piece.
Yeah, and that's those emotional things they're tough, but there's so many hacks around trying to keep a Rubbermaid container full of glue and macaroni and paper together,
right,
so that you can one day enjoy it, because there might be that one day, and so it even doing a scrapbook of some of their art through the ages is a fun way of having something that you can reminisce and go through with a grandchild or something one day. But peeling open a box that is in the very back of your basement, has been sitting in mildew and who God knows what else is living in there, and you try to go through it, and it's usually not as great as you think it's going to be at that point anyway.
Right. And so, looking at narrowing things down, maybe you do throw out some of the random crafts finally, and you can take a picture to memorialize it.
Yeah. I've got a grandfather who has a trunk full of letters that if somebody wanted to go through and read, they could read, but nobody ever has and does. So like taking those and scanning them and turning them into a book and just say, hey, family, here's all of granddad's or daddy's letters.
Yeah.
And just get rid of them. But you have records of them. It's just doing the hard stuff. It's making the plan to do the hard stuff. And, getting some momentum and getting some low-hanging fruit can help you start that to do those more difficult projects that are more emotional or history-driven.
That goes to what I'm saying. So with the trash thing, before you get to the trash thing, it may mean there's action steps. So there may be a trash action pile and a trash pile. So the trash pile is where the stuff that is already just toast. It needs to go. It is, the child has finally stopped caring about the one-armed Barbie. We can throw away of one-armed Barbie. Like let's go ahead and let that one go.
Right.
So if it's something that's beyond repair or something, go ahead and do your part to throw it away. And if you can, recycle it. And if not, throw out what is really not usable for anyone else. The other part of it, though, is the other things that end up in that trash pile are things that, is it something that you can mend? If you have said, well, I'm going to get to it, don't do that anymore. You have to set a date to it. So maybe your trash pile is one with the specific action of the trash pile has to be taken out by Saturday.
It's got an expiration date on
I
it.
either have to mend it or trash it by this date. I have to...
You got to dummy-proof yourself.
Yeah, you
or
have
else
got to set the deadline or it will continue to just be that big pile that's the junk drawer of trash that's not usable unless something's done with it and you can't make that time to do something with it. So you've got your pile of stuff that is the trash, and you've got an end date for trash. So trash goes out and doesn't stay in your house. And then that third pile that you have is the love pile. So you have your give pile that you know is going to go out of your house. You have the trash pile that is going to either be fixed and put into your love pile or it's going to go into the trash. And you have your love pile. And your love pile are those things that you absolutely love and you aren't ready to get rid of. Now, you've got your 3 piles. The ultimate goal here is that whatever you're working on is a clean slate. If you have a junk drawer, that junk drawer is empty. A closet, the closet is empty. A room, as empty and cleared out as you can have it. When you look at something with a blank slate, it is it's a way easier to determine what you want to intentionally put back into it than it is to try to move around and sort around what's already there. And so that idea of coming at it with a blank slate is a beautiful opportunity to then approach it with new eyes. I mean,
what does this make possible now that it's gone? Now that we have a clear opportunity to put stuff back that we really want and care about, what could that look like?
Right.
And this is the most important step.
Right. At that point, I am looking at my love pile and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, what is it that I'm holding on to and why? And how can I appreciate the significance of it? So obviously, the first things that are going to go back are going to be the practical things that we use every day that we need. We're going to put back our toothpaste and our toothbrushes, and we're going to make sure we have space for those in our, washcloths and our makeup or whatever as our first priority in our bathroom before we'd put anything else back. Kitchen, our utensils, our clothing. We're going to put back our essentials first. Put back your practical. And then start looking at the frivolous.
How often do I peel the tops off of strawberries with the little claw that reaches
with the little
in
strawberry
and grabs
grabber?
it?
Yeah, is this something I use all the time? Is it really necessary for me to hold on to? The things that are... And we've done this, like at going through and like clearing out mementos, we find, let's see, for example, I find this beautiful vase of my grandmother's that I had held on to. Well, me just having it wrapped up in a box isn't really giving any honor to it anyway. It's just creating clutter and not celebrating what it is. So if it's really valuable to me, where can I put it in my home where I can see it and find joy in it? And find a piece that I can enjoy. And so, maybe I take that out of the box and I have it specifically on a shelf where I can see it, enjoy it, and appreciate it. And so my first step for once the practical is done in a room is then to go shopping in my own pile of the things that I love.
How could you reuse what you have in a new way? Right.
And I have done that so many times where, we like to change things up in our house and refresh things. And pulling things out takes them out of context, and so I can put them in a new place. And there have been times where I have done that, and it's like something that's been collecting dust in a corner that I was going to get rid of. Now it's a whole new appreciation because, oh, wait, when everything else is cleared out of the way, and that's the one thing that's highlighted, it's so beautiful, and I love it, and it brings me joy. And the
two
point...
2 steps forward, 1 step back of clutter removal.
It is. And that's the point, though, is going with each one. How does this feel? Does it feel better to you? At each point, you stop. When it is a blank slate, how does it feel when it's a blank slate? How does it feel when we put this in? Do we feel more excited? And does this bring us joy in this room? Or is it feeling like obligation, like clutter, like, oh, there's too much? It gives us an opportunity to kind of play with how it feels as we go. And it allows us to create with what is. So as we look to put things back, we are looking at new spots for where we want to put things, to where we recognize if it's setting out with purpose. The purpose is either the practicality of its use or the joy that it's giving us. But it's not just to push against a wall and decide on later.
Right. And that's that. Why are you staring at me
Calling
like that?
you out, Nathan Gray.
I know. I like to just sit on it for a long time.
I've had to. My big thing is lining things up against a wall does not mean it's clean.
Well, we both have each other's kryptonite. Mine is I bet you can't, and yours is let's put a timeline on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, all right, we're serious now.
Yeah.
But that's you have to know yourself and kind of your. It's almost like your like clutter ego or something. I don't know how I would describe it, but just like the inner person inside of you that is saying, well, here's how I justify the existence of this thing. And especially if you're working with a partner or somebody else and you're trying to navigate clutter, doing a pros and cons list, and because you might have a pile of things that your partner's like, that is ridiculous. We do not need dried roses. I think I love you. We can get those at any point. Dry roses are, you got them in a specific place and they remind you, but what can we do with those dry? And so, it's just that kind of thing is necessary to do.
Right, and just figuring out what's valuable and what's something that can be in the house for everyone.
And be jovial about it. Like this is just stuff. This isn't life and death.
Right. We incorporate our kids in the process. We don't go behind our kids' backs and throw things
out.
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, we do. We don't do that.
No, we really don't. I'm pretty open about it. And even if it is something, if we get to a point of frustration where we find something on the floor on repeat, then it's just, hey, just to let you know, if I find it again, it's mine. If
it's particularly loud and obnoxious and cheap, then if I do find it laying around, it might jump in the trash can on accident.
We try not to do that.
To see if they don't.
No, we do. We incorporate everybody in, and so we're open about what we're doing and why and how it feels when it's clean. And we started doing this at a very young age with our kids. And so, making sure that the focus isn't just on clean everything up, this house is a wreck, which I know I could fall into that criticism very easily. But to take the time to sit in the clean and say, look at how, like notice how this feels.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you can
what do we have space for? What can we create now that we're not having to work on the cleanup?
Right. Sometimes you can make a habit of clutter. And, you take your backpack off and you throw it in the chair on your way in the door as you toss your keys on the table, and it's all open and out for everybody to have to navigate around. And, sometimes when you put them in a drawer and put the backpack in the closet, it changes the whole experience. But it's just that little stuff of making the habit and creating the habit. And that can take time. And so you almost have to do it as a family, just make it as a game. You get playing, and we're going to just do, like we're doing that right now in a way. We've been dealing with trying to figure out how to navigate the dishes to get done or certain chores to get done consistently. And now we're just down to like, you're the one today. Boom.
Who's our tribute? Who can contribute today?
Who can contribute today? And so that's worked really well because we get to point out at the end, thank you, Juliet, for cleaning up. This is really nice to be able to look at the kitchen and there's not a sink full of dishes.
Well, and our kids, fully recognize when somebody suggests something that requires a lot of dishes. They're like, oh, do we really want to do that right now?
Do we want a smoothie to clean up after? Oh, really? That tastes different now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's good. I want them to taste what it feels so that they have an awareness that they have an impact on this world, that their food and the preparation of it all is, it's part of the game that they need to be aware of. It doesn't just come to them on a silver platter when they clap.
Right. So we're working through this, and we wanted to kind of openly share with you, and I'm sure we're going to be doing some more episodes on decluttering as we leave the Florida Keys at the end of November and go back up to our house in Venice, Florida in December. And at that point, we're going to be, looking at decluttering that whole shed that is full of stuff again. And it's clearing out everything that we have here in our rig. Because we're reevaluating, how do we live in a fifth wheel as a family? Well, this family of now having 2 teenagers in the home is very different than when we first hit the road and we had, 4, 6, and 9-year-olds. Well, having 10, 13, and 15-year-old children requires different things, and their space, the stuff that they, everything, the literal space they take, as well as their clothes, their nook, their things that they're working on, their completely valid projects are requiring different things. So we're looking at how we can rebuild and recreate for it.
Yeah. And that's why I say, like, this is a constant garden.
Yeah. This
doesn't just, to me, some people may get it, Marie Kondo says once you do her process, you'll never go back. It's impossible for you to go back. Well, we're a testament to the impossible, but
I think that it's also very hard to do that if you are looking at being open, receptive to others. People like to give. And one of the things that Marie Kondo pointed out in the book was be careful about over-gifting obligation. And I have to be careful on that, because let's go back to those things that you are ready to let go of. The things that you can get rid of. They're still useful. An easy option is to just take that and dump it at Goodwill. Let them deal with it. Another option is handing them off to other people. Make sure that it's a wanted handoff. There are times and there are opportunities where that's such a great sustainable way to kind of spread the love. And we're a member of the Buy Nothing group in Venice. I highly encourage you to check out buynothing.org and pretty sure it's I'll put the link in the blog post and notes. But they're community driven. You can only do one, and it has to be right there local in your community. And the whole point of it is posting things that you want to gift to others and people asking for things. And there's no selling done. It's not a place to just dump things and hand things off. They encourage you to, think about, give time for people to respond, choose one person, and then go back and say that you gifted it to them. And it's a way to build community. I've gotten to know people that we have gifted things to in this way, and they share stories, and it's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful way of handing off your stuff. The non-beautiful way is saying, hey, I have this whole box of all of the clothing that my child wore at 1 year old, and my sister's having her baby, and I'm just going to dump it all on her. That becomes somebody else's burden to carry.
Well, that may be the way they ask. They say, just give it to me, I'll sort through it, and I'll deal with it.
Right, yeah. So just making sure that you understand that, that it's not always the gift to hand off things. So just checking and making sure that it is a good match. Well, and that's why I like things like the Buy Nothing and asking people to,
Well, living in an RV, giving stuff to people becomes it's almost like a curse, because you're like, oh man, that hitch is really nice and I'd love to take it, but that's 45 pounds I've got to account for in my camper because weight matters. I call it trading weight, because you're like, well, okay, I've got to drop something to give you to get to even it out.
Well, honestly, what ended up happening and what we would do in the RVing community when we would hold rallies, we would have a swap table. And the swap table, at one point, the general thought is if you want something on the table, you leave something on the table. And then the reality of everybody's clutter really stood out. And it was basically, if there is anything you need, please take it. Please take as much as you need or whatever. And what happened is it kind of started to open up the community for things like that. So, somebody would wosey over to the swap table and say, hey, I'm looking for something. And somebody else goes, oh, you know what? I have that. I'd love to go get it and hand it off to you.
Get rid of it, yeah. Drop 50 pounds.
Yeah, sometimes it's trading weight. Sometimes it was just handing off and giving. But we were able to kind of, everybody was in the same boat of looking at, okay, what's really worth bringing back into our rig and what's not.
Yeah, it just brought a heightened level of awareness of necessity.
Yes.
And that's the game here, is bringing an awareness and a conversation into stuff of, okay, I want this. I can afford this. This could be a lot of fun to add. Now, what is the necessity of it? How often will I use it? That's something that when we're looking at investing in something, our girls, it drives them nuts because I'll spend a year, trying to decide on a inflatable paddleboard and then buy a house sight unseen in 45 days. and it drives them up the wall, but that's just how we operate because, a house I can use all the time. A paddleboard, maybe 7 times a year, 20 times a year.
That's
how
the thing.
often?
Yeah, we want to look at the lifetime stewardship. And that's something that I think that's the biggest thing that has been a big part of our awareness right now. Obviously, climate change is big on many people's minds. And as we have kind of been going through content we're learning from the Carbon Almanac, which is an incredible book all about everything that is going on. They pulled over 300 volunteers from across the world to create this book. It has been a bestseller in every country it's been delivered to and has all kinds of free content to go with it, including teacher's guides and things to go through with kids, a kids podcast, an adult podcast, all kinds of stuff. So we've been looking for, ways to be more sustainable and things. And it made me reconsider my easy way of thinking, oh, I'm helping the planet. And, I'm being frugal with my money and I'm helping the planet by always shopping secondhand. Well, when I shop secondhand, I'm sure there are others that can relate with me here. Have you ever had the whole, you buy the $2 t-shirts and clothes for your kids and then they get one stain on it and then it's like, it was just a $2 shirt and you just get rid of it and you trash it. And I become even more a part of the problem because I'm grabbing, 15 of the $2 shirts that then end up in the landfill versus buying the one shirt that was sustainably made to begin with that we take care of and we wear for the lifetime of the shirt. That part is the part that I think is my biggest gut check of the moment, is that as we go to declutter, I want to be very careful about the sustainability of what we're bringing in. And looking at, maybe, for example, clothing, knowing the textile industry and the struggles with or how much it attributes to climate change makes me excited about looking for some of the sustainable clothing and wearing that. And you bet your bottom I'm going to be navigating a very nice sustainable shirt in a different way than if it were just some shirt that was picked up at the thrift store for under $1.
Yeah, and I think that this is an example of there are kind of seasons of this opportunity. I'm not going to buy a really nice, this is me speaking, I'm not going to buy a really nice sustainably made bamboo shirt for a 2-year-old that's going to trash it. Because they're probably going to trash it. They don't understand. They're just living, getting hand to mouth. You say, give it to them.
I struggle with it because I want to do it, but I understand the practicality side of, why would I spend $50 on an outfit that my child is going to stain in trash? And I get that. And we're at a point now with our kids being older and wanting to take care of their things, and they are the ones pushing for it. They're asking us, can we buy more sustainable clothing versus it just being something that we're just recycling the same thing through and through. So we're looking at both. We still are going to shop secondhand. We're still going to do that. And we still have kids that need to have clothes that can just be ripped up. But the reality is a lot of those clothes we really do wear to the ground. We may
Absolutely.
buy something at the thrift store and it is worn as a uniform until it has so many holes in it, it's best used for rags.
I wear the same thing so often, I don't know what year it is.
Right.
And it's like only 3 or 4 things.
Yeah, so there are times that you can definitely do that. But it's just, just another thing to think on. Your way of stewarding your clutter in your home is going to be your way. Give yourself grace in this process. Recognize it's going to come and go because as you have relationships with other people, those people are going to contribute things in your life. And so that's where I feel like with Marie Kondo, great in theory, as long as I dictate and control every single thing that anybody else is bringing into our home. And that means every person in the home. And that also means every person who ever gives us a gift in the home. And that's really hard because I also very much believe that giving a gift, the best gift to the giver is to have that well received. And so, I accept a gift with gratitude for the sake of the giver as well, to say, hey, you thought of me, and I really appreciate that, regardless of what I choose to do with the gift afterward. I want to be a grateful recipient of gifts as well. So there are times you're going to end up with clutter in your home. And there are going to be times where things are not taken care of and they break and it's not being the best steward of it. Yes, those things happen. We're human. But can we be more intentional? Can we look at, maybe if I want to be a good steward of my things, I'm going to look at more sustainable things versus just secondhand. Maybe I'm going to go to secondhand because I've only bought brand new at Target and I'm going to get some things secondhand now. Maybe I am being a little bit more strategic and going on a spending freeze for a bit because I recognize that the dollar bin at Target is my, is my weakest link. And those things I've noticed I continue to throw out after a bit.
Yeah.
I know for me, that's one thing. I don't go and hang out at Target. Because every time I do, I come back with dollar bin items.
Full of justifications.
Yes.
Ooh,
that's horrible.
I'm
so
sorry,
true.
but it's so true. You come to me so excited, and I'm like, yeah, it'll be in the trash bin in a week, I guarantee you. And usually they are.
No,
Sometimes.
The other thing is regifting.
Be honest.
Sometimes they are. I hate to even say that. Yeah, because that's not being a good steward of things, and I don't want to do that.
But that's the thing, is we're human. It's okay. That's okay. Right. It's just recognize that the next time you're in the shop and okay. It's just like having, if you have one beer and then you want another one, well, I got to drive home. Well, do I really want this in my life? Is this really something I need right now? Or I know it'll be here and I can come back. Yeah. If I can, and that's my thing, is it drives everyone crazy because I have this line that says, "Oh, we'll come back to it," and that's basically Daddy's version of no, that with hope that will just maybe one, but that's the truth. Is if you walk away from something and you can't stop thinking about it, that's something you may want in your life, and that's something that's worth having in your life.
Just like the huge piece of driftwood that we said we'll come back to it to Clara over and over.
I was just going to say it like the first time I met you, and I thought, man, I can't get you out of my mind. I need to be with you forever. Come back to it. Yeah, come back around to it. I did.
There you go. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, well, so we've had that, but knowing that about Nathan, and we'll come back to it, I know that that's letting go of it, and if it still continues to hound me, I do. At this point, I follow through with it, and I say, all right, babe, I still want it. Let's still do this. Let's do it. And we talk through and we make a decision on it. But just giving that little bit of space to come back to it has allowed for some of those impulse buys not to happen as well.
Yeah.
So this is something where we're constantly looking and refining for it. And I have found really great ways to repurpose things. And repurposing things, maybe looking at it in a new creative way for a different use, and all of a sudden it's revitalized in a new way. I want to be a good steward and not just have our house be a place that just channels things through that we then throw out, but to hold on to and appreciate the things that we have. And some of that is also being really clear as to what comes in and making it a worthwhile investment. I mean, I remember when Nathan and I first got married, and one of the sayings in your household.
So if you pay for quality, you only cuss once.
Yep, exactly. And for me, I was the queen of the dollar store and buy a whole bunch of crappy things that all break on me. And so recognizing that and having good quality stuff makes a big difference.
Spending $50 one way or the other.
Yeah. Exactly. And so, paying attention to what you have and being a good steward, looking at how to repurpose it. If it's served its purpose and it no longer is a good fit, looking at maybe how you can share that gift with others, not to slough it on to them as an obligation that they have to take it, but looking at things like buy nothing, free cycle, asking friends and family if anybody is interested in it. I mean, we've done that and we've handed off a lot of things. And I mean, it's a super, it's seemingly for us, looks like this big, super generous act, and it's a win-win. I mean, we're helping everybody because they're getting something they want, and they're taking that space, that out of our lives that we may want for something else at that moment.
Yep. So start picking out which area of clutter you can start to chip away at first. Where's that low-hanging fruit? Where you can just start to make one corner look nice. And, I know you may live with 50 other people that don't care, but just have your little area and then start adding to it and talking about.
Yeah, pay attention to and sit in the feelings that happen beyond it, not just in what's not liked. And that's so much the essence of so much we talk about here on Mama Says Namaste, of living in that point of gratitude and abundance for what we have and for what is, versus just wishing or desiring for what isn't. So create those moments and sit in them. Notice how much of an impact it makes when you clear the space. Give yourself a blank slate to start with, without guilt, shame, or clutter in it. Give yourself that blank space. Sort things so that you can start to just, the first decision is just, is this a, love, keep, or hate? Not a where it's going to go, not a what am I going to do with it, just a love, keep, or hate. Or, not love, keep, or hate, love, thrift, or trashed.
Yeah.
Sort it into those, and then go from there and whittle away a little bit by a little bit. Recognize that as you do that, you're starting to open your eyes to a different level of awareness and different habits that you can practice as a family. The more you can do that and sit in those positive feelings, the more you guys all can work together, which ultimately leads us to how the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Namaste.
You got me on that one.
3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change that I want to see in this world. Boys and girls, you gotta have to stand up to be free. Namaste in your heart. Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama Says Namaste.